Get ready for the Ocelli Effect.
I'm a big fan of the show.
Chuck Ocelli, and has been known for many years as a blind GFK researcher specializing in intelligence agency involvement in multiple assassinations, propaganda, and other global criminal operations in the 20th and 21st centuries.
Your listeners are extremely fortunate to have you.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media.
Chuck Ocelli!
10th day of January 2018, allegedly, according to that thing we call a calendar. And this, indeed, is the Ocelli Effect, broadcast live from the facilities of Ocelli.com, also heard on Awake Radio US, WindowsOnTheWorld.net, RealLibertyMedia.com, etc., the micro-broadcasters in the Northeast. And, hey, anywhere where a mudslide has not destroyed you in California, we might be available, too, via your fondle slab of choice further on down the stream. Oh, is that an ugly joke? Possibly. Anyway, it is Wednesday, Woden's Day, as it would be, and in the first hour I have Aaron Franz with me from the ageoftransitions.com, but of course we know him quite well as Transresistor radio host, and let's see, what else does he do? Oh, right, Uncle the Podcast, themes and memes, couple other things out there, but I think if you go to the ageoftransitions.com, you'll be able to find out all about that. In the second hour, hopefully, because there has been some confusion a few times, the one and only Jordan Maxwell, JordanMaxwellShow.com is where you go. That is the official website of the man who actually controls his name, at least on that website. Ignore the others, please. Anyway, Jordan Maxwell will be with us, and if you don't know who he is, go ahead and do a search with something, start page, I don't know, Bing, whatever it is you use, anything but Google, go for it. Anyway, enough of my mouth. Hopefully we are broadcasting normally at this point, because this is show number 3 where I'm in control of the board. So, Aaron, how are you this evening?
Doing very well. Good to be here as always, Chuck.
Oh, man. You know, I hope that we're doing well. I'm going to check in with the chat in a moment because, visually it's very difficult for me to do stuff like that during the show normally, and it's even worse. It's even worse when like I'm trying to talk and do something else, and and everybody's going, well, gee, does that have anything to do with his eyesight? Maybe, but it also just might be that I don't know how to multitask, and maybe I am just the dumb monkey that some people seem to think I am. Either way, doesn't matter. Here we are. So, Aaron, we are not going to descend and dispatch with the news of the day because I've been doing that for the past 2 days. I am thoroughly exhausted from it all. It is a bunch of silliness. I will say this, though. I got a very, very negative email. I got a very positive email and a very negative email in the past couple of days regarding the show, and a couple of comments on the website which were positive. But the negative one, of course, is the one I'm going to pay attention to. They kept using the word collusion and the whole Russia-Trump collusion thing, collusion, and calling me an idiot, not understanding a single thing that I was talking about, etc. You know what? I don't really use the word collusion except when referencing a news story that somebody else reported. I am not as dumb as this person thinks I am, who I'm not going to identify in case maybe they're using a false identity to attack me. I'm not sure. But, I recognize that the criminal charge would be conspiracy, and I have known this for quite some time. Point of reference, you look back to 2014 when I was explaining in the very first JFK Myths show the legal definition of conspiracy and how it is one of the most often prosecuted crimes. And this idea of collusion, that is the headline. But I'm not dumb enough not to know that the criminal charge would actually be conspiracy. And conspiracy to do what? Well, that would be what the investigation would pan out to show. That would be the fact that, hey, maybe if you were a conspiring, which, of course, I gave, all sorts of definitions for. If you were conspiring, let's just say, to defraud the election process, to create a fraudulent situation, to, trick people in a public arena. There's all sorts of different levels of crime that could be attached to it. I'm not stating that I know any of them. I was merely using the word collusion because that's what's in the headlines. So, now that I've thoroughly explained that, and hopefully everybody else gets that, let's drop it. Aaron, what is on your mind? Oh, and the other question. I think I asked you about Black Mirror. Did you wind up catching up on that at all?
No, I didn't. I'm terrible with TV. I really am. I don't know. I have this love-hate relationship with a lot of things, actually, and TV is one of those things. You know, I really like creating media. I love creating media, visual media. I would like to make my own TV show. A lot of times, I like shows like Black Mirror. I mean, I love really good and I appreciate good quality TV. And it's out there, and I'm glad to see it. But when it comes to actually watching it, I don't know. I just I find it hard to make the time to do it. One of these days I'll watch that show, but I have not yet, and I apologize for that.
Well, listen, you don't have to apologize. I've asked like everybody this week if they've seen it because I was especially creeped out by it and a TV commercial in conjunction with one another that happens to be in the real world that seem to link up rather nicely in a synchronistic fashion. So that's the reason why I brought it up. But hey, we'll put that aside. Man, you and I have definitely been talking about technology and technocracy, indeed, transhumanism, artificial intelligence. We went into all those directions. I'm not limiting you to that tonight at all. And also, let's not forget the continuous running theme of the left-handed path through various disciplines and philosophies, which seems to just keep coming up in conversation with you and I, not because we appreciate talking about it, but because that happens to be what's there. Anyway, what is it that has caught your interest over the past week? Because we do speak almost every week, and I'm extremely grateful for you being here on Wednesdays with me. But I'm wondering what's caught your attention lately before I delve into the other things outside of the idiocy of politics that have been getting at me. Where are you at?
Yeah, I want to make a comment. It's hard not to on the news, and that I'm just I'll say that I've been sleeping soundly like a baby, knowing that a card-carrying genius is in the White House. I'm just gonna leave it at that. You know, I feel really at ease. I feel good about that fact. It's a fact now, okay?
Of course it is. Listen, it's a stable genius on the one hand, and look, if you don't like the stable genius, you can always upgrade to Oprah in 2020, can't you, Aaron?
Indeed. Oh, yeah. That's well, I'll say that it would at least be an improvement, but that's about it.
Wow. You know, that's funny. You and I do not have discussions throughout the week. This is not prepared. But notice that Aaron's answer sounds a little like mine. Or it's like, that would be an improvement, but that's not going to fix the problem. Okay. And I'm also reminded, now here's an old movie, so I'm sure you've caught it, and I can't help myself but delve into the allegedly fictional. But you remember Mike Judge did a movie some years ago called Idiocracy, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love that movie, by the way. I'll just say, yeah, I love it.
There you go. You love that movie, but here's the thing. I dare you to try and watch it like tomorrow. And why do I dare you to watch it tomorrow? Because you're going to feel like, wait a minute, this was supposed to be in the future. I've gone to the future. You know, President Camacho is a little more than a reality TV star. He's the five-time, champion of SmackDown, undisputed, and, of course, a porno superstar. So that's how he gets to the presidency. But why not Oprah? Why not? You know, and the guy who says, you're fired. Yeah, sure. Man, again. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I interrupted, but I felt compelled to bring up the brilliant work of Mike Judge. And not just because of the political figures either, but because of the devolving sense of intellect that is then celebrated like in the future, and they try to place it at 500 years from now or something ridiculous. Man, this is a couple decades away at best, baby. I mean, buckle up and pack several lunches because it's only a day or two away. It seems like. I'm sorry, please stop me, Aaron.
I think Trump took some of his campaign ideas from that movie. He's like, "Hey, I'm rich." And, of course, you've got the audience going, "I like money." That was basically what people were saying. The reason why they like him, during his candidacy was, well, he's a business leader. He knows how to run a business. Therefore, he'll be a good president. It's the same thing as saying, "I like money." I think Trump is savvy enough to, get the ideas from pop culture and just use them. He's a pop culture icon. And he's good at that. He's not really good at doing anything except for lying and snookering people and using pop culture to his own advantage. So,
see, that's what we celebrate anymore, right? I mean, this is really the cultural status of, forget about politics, right? Forget about morality. Forget about I don't know, the ethos of what people call morality. Forget all of that. Think about this. Culturally, where are we at in America? Where, is there an innovative artist, or is it just, I remember a few years ago that people in the entertainment press were complaining that there were individuals that were simply famous for being famous. And that is no longer a complaint from anybody. It is just a sign of the times. It is what it is. And anybody can be famous for 15 minutes, according to Andy Warhol. But I'm telling you right now that a viral tweet can happen in a matter of a couple of minutes and be done in less than that 15. So I think things are accelerated here. What do you say?
Yeah. Things are speeding up. There's been lots of people have pointed out this sort of weird relationship to time as we move through the age of transitions here. We go through the technological changes. There's so many rapidly changing things on all fronts, especially technologically, socially, politically, that we can't keep up anymore. So at least if you're looking at this from a philosophical viewpoint, you can say that time is speeding up, because just for the mere fact that so many things are jammed into a shorter amount of time, there's this effect on our consciousness that things are happening quicker. So, there's been a lot of people point that out. Just, again, it adds to the confusion of our day, and that's the big problem in my estimation is the confusion. We're all subject to this. We're all falling prey to it because we can't help it. It's just the nature of the times. For me, the solution in all this and within all this is to find answers, to find, peace of mind, number one, be able to relax, step back, and cut out as much confusion as you can and come to understanding as much as that is possible. We're not able to understand everything all the time, but what the world is telling us is that we do need to be able to do it. It kind of scares us. We're scared from all these different angles into thinking we need to know and understand things and be in control of everything. And the reality is the average person isn't in control of anything, including their own life, and that's scary.
Well, scary, but hold on a second, because everybody talks about understanding, and I'd like to get to a part where, because listen, think about the word understanding for a moment, and obviously with Jordan in the next hour, I do stuff like this when I'm going to have him on in my own head, but, understanding sounds like standing under. I'd like to get to some overstanding, and I'll tell you why, because, I am flooded with silliness sometimes, and from well-meaning people. You and I discussed the Mandela effect not too long ago on this show briefly, and I told you I'm not a fan of the concept, and I don't believe that it is real. I think that people need to get to an actual reality that they don't like when it comes to this subject, and here's what I'm going to use to illustrate it. Somebody sent me recently a YouTube video, and I'm not going to identify who sent it or why because I don't want to embarrass anybody, and I tore the whole thing to shreds. They sent me a YouTube video that stated just recently all of these films of the JFK assassination have suddenly come out of nowhere. This is evidence of the Mandela effect. Okay. The person who sent it wanted to show it to me because they knew I had, some idea about maybe what was out there, what wasn't out there, and that this would be shocking. And I think this person actually wanted to show me once and for all how wrong I was. Take a look at the subject you know so well, and now look at the alternate reality which has been painted over it. Problem with that is as follows. They're wrong. Okay? They're simply wrong. They were unaware of the fact that a guy around the 25th anniversary in 1988, again in 1993, and again in 2003, had put out home video releases of a collection of these films. They're also wrong thinking that there was only the one film of the assassination. There's actually like a bunch of them, I think about 30, where you could sort of chronicle the trip through Dealey Plaza if you wish to. All together, these home movies. And there's even a group of individuals who are amateur home movie makers that made a short film that ran in theaters briefly in Texas called the Dallas Cinema Associates. Anyways, all of this stuff has been in the public domain since 1988. This is not new information. I was aware of it, studied it, went through it, and in fact saw in the films that are being clipped together on YouTube the evidence of exactly what I was talking about, because the logo from the original home movie is there in the corner. And these people are saying these are brand new films which have emerged magically. Also, I had at one time interviewed one of the people who filmed one of those things and talked to the granddaughter of another, and on and on and on. And I said to myself, you know what the sad, terrible thing is that we are being dumbed down, and the reality is that most people don't realize it, and that could create the symptoms that make the Mandela effect look like a good excuse for maybe just you're damaged. Okay? You're damaged, and so are many other people who can't seem to put these things together, who have a very bizarre blender in their minds where they have combined different factoids and created facts in their own heads, and then it doesn't match the reality, so it's got to be something. They can't possibly be wrong. If they believe it, it must be true. Seems like everybody lives in their own private echo chamber anymore, and the algorithms are helping with that through social media and everything else. So maybe it's just denial and the inability to come to an overstanding, which means, actually standing over the facts and observing them objectively from afar, and there you go. How about that as an answer to what's really happening here? Why is all this stuff acceptable? Why is the silliness acceptable? Why are people, so willing to fight with each other when they have no idea what they're fighting over? Maybe it's just that we are truly damaged, and so truly damaged that it obscures our ability to even fully comprehend how damaged we have all become collectively. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm well aware of the overstanding term made famous by Jordan Maxwell, and I should have used that term. I love that, standing under the foundation, looking up, and overstanding. So I know that. But yeah, I agree. There's a dumbing down going on, and it's a real problem, and we have to face it. And the thing is, we're poised for the problem to multiply. And it's for the same reasons. It's all the same reasons. We've got automation coming in. We've got artificial intelligence, automation, converging technology, where we've been talking. We talked about this last week, where there's going to be huge economic upheavals. The labor sector is going to be hit hard because the new labor is going to be done by machines. And there's all sorts of angles to talk about this. In one respect, it's good because these jobs are absolutely deplorable in the first place and dehumanizing. Weren't meant for humans in the first place, most of them, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But what is our safety net going to be in this world where we're not earning wages anymore? You have to completely restructure the economy if this thing hits as hard as a lot of people are saying. And I am certainly on board with the people, and I agree with the people who are saying, like, hey, look, this is going to hit. It's going to hit hard. The economy is not going to be able to continue as it is now. It's just not impossible. It's going to have to completely be restructured. So you got all these alternatives popping up. People are coming up with ideas, and of course, universal basic income is one of these big popular ideas. Well, why don't we just get the government to give everybody a stipend? Like the government issued it's like a new form of welfare, some people say. I saw a tweet from the World Economic Forum recently. They make a lot of good tweets. I'd recommend listeners to follow World Economic Forum on Twitter. They had this story on their website titled "Experts Might Have an Alternative to Basic Income," and it cites this debate that happened at Brain Bar Budapest, where these two guys, Steve Fuller, who's an author and a professor at Reading University over in England, and a Hungarian guy named, Zoltán Pogácsa. They were debating whether UBI, Universal Basic Income, was a good idea or not. And the Steve Fuller guy says, he took the position like, no, universal basic income is not a good idea. It's an old model. It's based on a socialist welfare state that we don't live in anymore. And his idea of an alternative is interesting. He says we should, all the big tech companies like the Googles, the Facebooks, and all these that are collecting data from its users and profiting on all this big data they're collecting from us by selling it to other companies. That's how they make their money. He says that they should be the ones paying us for the use of this information, and that is actually the alternative he gave to universal basic income. I was just sitting there going, you know what? I don't know which is worse, universal basic income or this idea. Because it sounds good in one sense, yes, they've been taking it for nothing. But what does that say about the future? We're like these, what our new value as a human and what gets us by financially to survive is us giving over information to Google and Facebook and whatever else comes out. You know what I mean? How dark is that?
Well, and the even stranger thing here is it dovetails perfectly with the World Economic Forum event that was held in Saudi Arabia just before the Palace intrigue took hold, right? And they were discussing how the next real oil was a huge thing. It created what James Corbett calls the oligarchs, right? And I love that term because they are an oligarchy that was founded through the industry of oil and petroleum. What's interesting is they were saying at this forum that data, information itself would become the commodity of tomorrow. And when you think about the significance of it lined up against oil, lined up against the catalytic factor that petroleum has become. Now everybody's going, well, of course. But think about this for a minute. How many things do you have in your home right now, any of you listening, or on your person that are made of plastic? Well, all of those things involve the petroleum industry. How about your medications? A lot of those, gels, the things that are the fillers and the pills, to be honest with you, the coatings. A lot of that stuff is brought to you by the petrochemical industry. Okay, yeah, all right, Chuck, I'm starting to hear you. Well, hang on. Then let's not forget about the mobility aspect of it, the travel, the other things that are constructed and made from that industry as its base. Now, the individuals that were talking about information and data as a wave of the future were stating that it would dwarf the potential that oil had 200 years ago. Now, that is an awfully bold statement, Aaron. And if we think about it, what does that mean to the individual? Well, nobody thought about it too much when, DuPont and all those people and the Rockefellers and God knows who else got involved and made sure that they made their livings on that and certainly shaped society in an image, whether they liked it or not, that was wholly different without that industry. But when you think about the ramifications of each individual being literally now a commoditized sort of livestock, except in the digital farm, if you will, wow. That's exactly what most people fear when they're talking about depopulation and the control and the grand, cabal which controls the entire planet. That's literally like saying, here it is, boys. It's Christmas and New Year's. Take it and run with it. That's how we're going to live. And you think anybody's going to notice in that sort of system when somebody, no matter what information they give or what part of themselves they give away or what part of their algorithm they feed into the grand matrix or anything else, when they still can't survive, okay, what is that going to mean? Because the algorithm decided that they don't have the data which is worthy of granting them survival, perhaps they need to be eliminated. Sort of like Scrooge, who said, well, what should you do with these poor people? Well, there are poorhouses, there are prisons, aren't there? There are orphanages. Let's send them there. Well, imagine the virtual version of that, except Scrooge isn't a curmudgeon. He just doesn't have a soul in the first place because he's artificial intelligence. Huh. That's real dark, Aaron. What do you say?
Yeah. I mean, where are we going with all this? And beyond that, where have we been? Because if we're talking about the economy, if we bring that down, and the loss of jobs, the loss of wages, the complete changing of the structure of what our economy is, what that means, you take it back to where we're coming from and where we've been leading up to this point, where people have had jobs in many cases, in some cases careers. There's some people make distinctions between jobs and careers, but more times than not, you find that people don't particularly enjoy their work. They just kind of do it because they have to. But on top of that, they also derive a large part of their identity and self-worth from that job, which they despise having to do, because it's a social obligation that's been hoisted on us for a number of different reasons. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody, you meet somebody and they ask you, oh, well, what do you do?
Your social interactions, your identity, all of that stuff, your sort of status, your ability to be part of different social situations, everything kind of has been tied to that. And I don't think that in particular was a good thing, but you're right, that paradigm exists as it does. Now, I'm going to throw one more thing in, and then I'm going to shut up and let you talk again, because a listener in the chat room brought up something great, and they said, well, what about mining for cryptocurrency? Wouldn't that fit right on in with, one of these job titles? Here's my answer to you. Not only are you mining for cryptocurrency, you are cryptocurrency. Get it? And, hey, why not make one group of people the cryptocurrency for another group of people? And then you could have them compete as to who can consume in the proper way and who actually runs according to the program. And this whole thing is like, the difference between Orwell hiring a hooker and these people, I don't know, running a farm of sex slaves. I mean, it is a big, big, big difference in exactly how demoralized this can become if you think about it objectively and how far it can go. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, well, there's that occult side of commerce, which Jordan Maxwell has pointed out better than I can think anybody else has. I mean, he has done really good work pointing out the occult side of currency, with water and all that. That's fascinating stuff. And that ties right in here. I mean, what is the new currency going into this new paradigm, this new world we're stepping into, and what are we? What's our relationship to that? How, to what extent are we the currency? And what is value? What brings value to a company? What has brought value to a company? With the human resources. Again, Jordan Maxwell's pointing out human resources. You have to think along these lines. Like, what are these words telling you? And, because one problem that we have to address now that we're suffering from, that have been for a long time, is this sort of this inability to understand words and concepts in all their different iterations and meanings simultaneously. We want to believe that everything has a simple, one-size-fits-all answer. But that's not. I mean, if we were to simply go to a dictionary, we know that's not true. We take it out. We look up one given word, and we find that has how many different definitions are there for this word? There's 10 different things it could be. So I mean, that tells you right there. It's like, hey, look, one thing is more than just one thing. One thing has all these different.
Well, stop there for a second, Aaron, because, you said let's go to a dictionary and look at the definitions. Well, there's a problem because, a dictionary, now maybe I just am, a terrible communicator in the English language, but I could have swore that a dictionary, as per its title, should explain to you how to pronounce a word. It should not be the source for the definitions.
Yeah.
Now, why do I say that? Because diction is literally the way a word is presented and is, the phonetic spelling. I mean, this is the heart of what a dictionary is supposed to do. And yet, you and I, even people that understand a lot of this or overstand a great deal of it, guess what? We default to, I'm going to go to my dictionary to get a definition. In the name itself, it doesn't tell you that it's for definitions. It tells you it's for diction. So, talk about a feedback loop that's probably making some people's heads hum. But if you don't, if you think I'm just talking crazy, think about it for a minute. I mean, do I sound crazy to you, Aaron?
No. I mean, listen to the way I'm talking. You sat here right in line with me. But you know what I mean, Chuck, is we want this one-size-fits-all answer for everything. That's just not the way things work. Everything is multifaceted. There's a lot of different things happening at once with quote-unquote one thing, right? And we, as individuated human beings even, are interconnected too. Everything's connected to everything else, all right? And that's the nature of the universe. Now, the issue is we're going into a digital universe where this whole sort of metaphysical, spiritual, I hesitate to use the word, but this concept, this occult concept of interconnectedness and even our connection to higher things and all of that, that's there. And it's true. There's a lot to say for the truth of that. We're going into a digital world which is more or less emulating that truth and recreating it within the parameters of its own system. I don't trust that. But
wait, not only don't you trust it, but here's the real, some people would call it a mind F. I'll call it a head screw. Here we go. Bottom line is that if you think about this, though, people have now been encouraged to invest their energies, whole relationships they have with other people they believe in their own heads, they're having with individuals who are nothing more than actually an avatar and a set of text. So they have literally invested the legitimate energy which can be generated by engaging in a relationship, by participating in discussions, by participating in debates, by letting their personality be shown, all of that stuff they invested into the virtual world already. So guess what? Sounds to me like a rather occult construct which has already been put in place, and it's just a matter of advancing the agenda. Because if you're not having time, first of all, because now your job is going to be to survive, and your survival is going to be dependent upon your investment into this virtual world. I mean, here we go. You have now invested everything into it. People are already encouraged to invest their normal socialization, their family relationships. Everything is now what? You know, a Facebook post, a tweet, a text, some sort of other communication, which is a surrogate. So the surrogate reality is now invested with all of the emotional, psychological, psychoactive energies. I mean, really, the only thing you need left to do is install a feeding tube, and you can farm us all day. I mean, what's the difference? And isn't this exactly like the greater goal? I mean, you don't need to cut down on the population if you can create an endless supply of drones that will feed this one giant beast. Now, that's the only thing that confuses me. The more you fatten that thing, what is it going to do? What is it going to serve? Oh, wait a minute. That's right. Those people said they didn't believe that God existed because they had yet to create it. Well, in a reverse engineered kind of backwards ass sort of way, that's what they'd be doing, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose they'd be the priesthood, wouldn't they? That would make sense. You look at the priest class through history, it's always the ones that are in charge, whether or not they come out in the open to the public or not. You know, they're there, and they're the ones who are really, they're like the advisors to the pharaohs or the presidents or whoever happens to be in charge in any given culture at any given time. So that's pretty much just the way things have been. It's the way they'll continue to be. But yeah, the question really is what happens to most people? What happens to the average person? And yeah, I guess back to, our identity as it stands now. Again, we've been given we've been given to believe that our identity is intrinsically tied with our career, our job, whatever it is that we quote-unquote do. Again, if somebody comes up to me, they ask me, they just met me, they ask me, oh, hello, what do you do? If I answer, well, on Wednesday nights I talk to this guy, Chuck O'Celli, on this internet radio show, and that's what I really enjoy doing more than anything. I also have a family and all that, and I mess things up. I was supposed to say, well, what do you do? What do you do for work? That's not work, is it? You make money? Oh, what they would do is they'd say, oh, do you make money on that? I'd say, well, no, I don't. Is it? Just can't do it because I like to do it. Tell me what generates your sustenance, friend. Don't give me this other story, right? Go ahead. Yeah. But again, like when people answer that in the correct way and they say, oh, well, I'm an accountant. I mean, what percentage of accountants enjoy doing what they do? I would like to know that. I would guess that it's 90% or higher that really, really don't like doing it. Again, it's not the sort of job that a human being was really meant to do, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. Somebody might disagree, but I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like, people hate working, but this is our identity. And that's another, beyond just economics, what happens to our identity? Who will come in and step in and tell us, because we have to be told what to do, will tell us how we identify ourselves from here on out when nobody's working anymore because there are no labor jobs left, Talking about accounting, you don't think artificial intelligence is going to be doing that in like 5 years anyway? And again, I look forward to that because I personally hate accounting. I'd like to have a machine doing it for me. So I'm not worried about that. But what happens to the way things once were, and what is our value as a person going into this world? You know, like we don't have careers anymore, so what do we do?
Well, but that's why I brought up those other things, because as I said, look, there's this thing I saw called what is it, catfishing. Is a TV show, and the premise of it is that somebody presents you with a false avatar, or maybe that's a false avatar, or maybe it's you're presenting them with a false avatar, and these guys on a TV show are going to show. It's a really dumb premise, but the thing about it to me was it was just like everybody seems to be feeding false information in, creating weird identities that are outside of themselves but have something to do with them over and over again, and their whole lives could literally wind up being contained in the virtual world if their jobs are there as well, if their ability to gather sustenance, like you said, you know, there's possibility of utilizing data, selling it to Facebook basically so you can live, or whatever sites, you know, sell it to the highest bidder, sell it to everybody, whatever. I mean, and of course, you know, the privileged people are going to get the most for their data than anybody else does. Obviously, there will be a caste system built in, just like everything else. There's always individuals who get a head start. I mean, but the idea to me is that eventually everything is sucked in there. Forget about your identity, because half of that is lost now. You know? I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's somewhat tied to what you do for a living. But a lot of people will tell you, you know what, this is what I do for a living, and this is what I really do. Now, if you can somehow combine those things together, it's an interesting world. It sounds like a lot of fun, and it's great. You know, if I was simply getting paid value from this grand system based on the fact that I put out a lot of media and that has a level of value, well, who's going to determine what that value is and how much sustenance I'm allowed to withdraw from the grand system? You know, it seems like a very strange new thing to wrap your mind around. And yes, I see some positives to it. But, man, it does not seem like the kind of thing that human beings are supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Is it just
so
me?
Back to that again. Yeah, not the thing we're supposed to be doing. And, yeah, virtual worlds, you're right. That's where a lot of this is headed, is virtual worlds. Of course, they're already here today, but they're developing faster and faster and on a trajectory to be oftentimes replacements for the quote-unquote real world. You know, so where we choose to spend our time, again, we're already doing that good portion of our time in the virtual world. And does this new economy move in that same direction alongside of us? Is that where the new economy is? Is it all virtual? Well, the money has been just zeros and ones in a computer up to this point anyway. So it makes it's a logical next step. Like, well, if this is all just kind of like made up anyway, what's the difference between the way it was and the way it will be in a virtual world? The only difference is, you know, human beings are living in this virtual world that's not physically tangible. It's created within a machine. So this is the kind of conversation that transhumanists have, and it gets really difficult because it's very dissociative, because it gets into all these philosophical problems, and so many times the transhumanists just glaze over all of that. We're like, yeah, there's all these problems, yeah, and like we don't really know what to make of all this, but we just know it's good, you know, it's gonna be better. And I don't share their optimism, you know, I just don't, for a host of reasons, not least of which, as you cited earlier, all these Silicon Valley guys are talking about positioning themselves to be these new the new kingpins. Like the new industry is tech. Somebody had a quote where they said what the military-industrial complex is today the Silicon Valley companies will be tomorrow, you know, and they'll have that same relationship to government that the military-industrial complex has. And that's what they're shooting for. That's what they want to do. And I say, well, yeah, that's appropriate because the military-industrial complex now is basically creating most of this stuff. So, you know, it's all part of the same thing to me anyway now. But these guys have no end of disturbing quotes they put out, and how people aren't more worried about just what these maniacs are saying. I don't know how that happens.
Well, you know, me neither. I'll tell you, it does make me want to laugh a lot less at the people that have met and married over their World of Warcraft accounts and things. Literally, that's a true story, by the way. Some people spend so much time in there, they develop relationships, fall in love with each other, and literally marry in the real world after meeting in World of Warcraft. And you might say, okay, people can meet anywhere, but I'm telling you, they carry on entire relationships for years. In some cases, they're best friends, everything, their whole lives effectively become this very limited social mechanism within a game. And here's the thing, I feel like that is the beta test for the wave of the future. No reason to physically be in the room with anybody. You might as well go to the Judge Dredd, you know, and I do mean the Sly Stallone version of it, Judge Dredd movie version of sexual interactivity between each other, because that's where it's going. Put on a headset, we'll put on headsets together, and we'll decide to go at it, because, gee, what will happen to breeding? Well, I guess that'll be selectively chosen through the algorithms, et cetera, along with your level of sustenance, what it is you are allowed to own, and who will be making those decisions. Well, will those kingpins actually hold the levers of power, or will the beast they create become the power onto itself? Again, going back to, are we going to, you know, believe that there is a God? No, because we haven't created it yet, but stay tuned, because isn't that what it looks like they're creating, is a God that they will have, again, no, you know, again I say, because as of this date, I don't believe any of them have any concept of what God would be, but here's the deal, they have no concept of what the character, nature, or interactivity of that God might be. I mean, it might go Terminator Skynet universe and decide, well, the real threat is all of us anyway. Or perhaps, you know, again, one of my favorite things in the Matrix, you're all more like a virus. And, hey, why not extinguish us? Oh, wait a minute, they need data. So instead of battery pods, maybe we're just data pods and we live in virtual realities. And here's the scary weirdness of it. Perhaps we're already there and we don't know it. Aaron, I know I've whipped around the bales a bit here, as they might say in some places, but again, I ask you, man, am I just sounding crazy? Because I assure you I'm not high at all.
It's impossible not to talk like this when you're getting on these subjects. It's just the nature of things. And I like talking about crazy things personally. I always have. I've enjoyed being a strange person. You know, it's just something I've always been. I've kind of just rolled with it and enjoyed it. So I'm continuing to do that now alongside you. Glad you're joining me here, Chuck. But in terms of those games that people play online, one of them is one that's been around for a while. It's called Second Life. And I always felt that was definitely this beta test kind of thing. And there's like always this weird, creepy thing going on. It's very symbolic, just with the name, Second Life. I mean, that's a very religious connotation to it, right? Like I'm born again into second life. I have a second life, born again. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. Speaking from an occult point of view, is you've been raised to another life. You've been initiated into something else. And of course, their logo is this hand with an eye in it. There's nothing to see there except for the hand looking back at you, right?
Well, that or a Taco Bell commercial that apparently upset Charlie Daniels. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I see the Taco Bell commercial. That's pretty funny, actually.
I found it humorous, actually. I thought it was kind of funny, but Charlie Daniels is bent out of shape, apparently, according to news reports. So, but anyway, that's a story for another day. Go ahead.
Oh, I gotta look that up. Yeah, that commercial's so silly because they're like, "There's 20 levels on the pyramid." I'm just like, "Oh no, there's not." But that's funny, you know. I get the joke. You know, it's clearly a joke. It's silly.
Yeah, but you see the detached capstone. I mean, all the imagery is there, and hey, look, you know, you're poking fun at the Illuminati. What are you doing? Just selling tacos. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Or alleged, I should say alleged tacos, and alleged food, indeed. Go ahead. Sorry, Aaron.
Yeah, no. With this Second Life thing, I mean, it's crazy. There's definitely something going on there. I've watched videos in the past. I'm struggling at the moment to remember like all the good details. Like, I want to say like the guy who runs the company, like the founder or CEO or whatever, he's a character. I can't remember any details. But yeah, it's just this idea of you putting yourself into this virtual world and attaining Second Life, and the transhuman concept taking that idea further is that this is our means to reach immortality, is virtual worlds and the uploading of our minds into machines. And this virtual space is the heaven which we're going to upload ourselves into in order that we may live forever. And this is the way that the transhumanists talk, and when they talk, they mean it, and they mean it in like this literal way. But it's just as religious as Christianity or any other religion saying the same things. It is the same thing as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of them are just pretending like it's something different. It's like it's science. It's not religion. It's the opposite. I'm like, yeah, right. Are you kidding me? But, I mean, I always stress this too. There are those within the transhumanist community that know better. And I would say that the people putting this company out there and giving the hand with an eye logo and naming it Second Life are within that group of people who know. And they have a grasp of the occult ramifications of all of this and what it means to offer Second Life to people, to initiate people into this Second Life, to raise them up, right? To have the high goal of incarnating a God. You know what I mean? There's people who understand what that actually means. There's not many of them, I don't think, but they're out there and they're working their magic, so to speak, right?
Well, you know, in that case, here's my question to you, Aaron, and it's going to sound like I'm just trying to break your chops, but I'm really not. This is my honest thoughts. Does that mean that hell is actually a PlayStation and limbo is probably a zip drive in somebody's pocket? Is that the case if all of that is supposed to be heaven, the virtual world?
Well, yeah, I guess in this world it certainly could be, you know, and I don't know. I just don't understand the appeal personally. It's like, why do you want to put yourself into this thing where you know that there's an outside control? And we can sit here and talk in a philosophic sense and debate whether we live in a simulation in the real material world now. And that's one philosophical debate to be had. But what does it mean to just go ahead and create a virtual world and know that there's people that can go in and change the code and do whatever, and, you know, there's AIs in control of this thing too. We know that something's going to be able to tinker with this thing from the outside and that we're putting ourselves inside. What in the world makes somebody want to do that? You know what I mean? And if we're living in a simulation already, what does it mean to go into a second simulation? We're getting really trippy now.
Well, yeah, I guess hackers then become demons of sorts to possess you and to cause damage to your world when they hijack your information or deliver viruses into the system. Oops, did I just say that? I mean, really, it sounds like you and I have sat down with, you know, a half ounce of something interesting and decided to write a movie script. But here's the scary part, Aaron. This stuff is coming to fruition seemingly at light speed right before our eyes. I mean, I honestly tell you that if somebody tried to have this conversation with me 20 years ago, I'd be checking the dilation on their pupils. You know, but right now I can't argue, and I'm trying to think to myself, yeah, they're going to recreate something that already exists. Where does that leave that which already exists, right? Like I said, then the body becomes a shell. And here's the other thing. The world doesn't even need to be populated by us to create new information, because a sophisticated enough algorithm can be creative. So here we go again. Maybe we're irrelevant, and maybe we are already those machines. Maybe we are already those algorithms within the grand matrix, which is the simulation. And now I've just gone and created a serious feedback loop in the echo chamber, I realize, but it's not an unworthy line of thought, is it?
No, it's not. And all this stuff that transhumans throw out there, it's worth exploring. But it does get very dissociative really quick. So you have to like pull yourself back when you get into this and not get wrapped up in it. Because you get wrapped up, you become one of these transhuman fundamentalists, which are just, you know, the transhuman version of religious fundamentalists, because this is a religion. And again, I would say before you get too far and do that, look toward the priesthood, which is this group which I was referring to before, of this small sect of people who understand the deeper meanings of all of this stuff, who don't look to a dictionary for the meaning of a word because they know that they should, for the reasons we pointed out earlier, they don't do that, okay? They know better. Look to those people because they're out there. And, you know, I've been looking at this a long time, and I've had my interactions with these people. I actually met a few in real life, and it's always interesting. And the projects that they work on, it's just, you know, you just always see these little hints thrown in there, these occult things, you know, like you have eyes to see, ears to hear. They throw all this symbology at you where they're telling you, like, yeah, we understand this. We understand the occult concepts of this. And it's weird. You know, there's definitely an aspect of when it comes to incarnating this AI God, whatever that means, these people know that they're not going to be able to control it, you know what I mean? But they're okay with that. And it's just, I'm always questioning, you know, like how far to go, like what are these nut jobs really doing? You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to sound. I'm pulling back on myself here. It's like you could get really, what's the word? You could appeal to all sorts of like reactionary concepts, and so I try to be careful when talking about this kind of stuff. But I will say that I do think that these people have religious conviction, they have occult understanding, and I think that they worship what they're working on creating right now. I'll say that.
Well, you know, that's the only thing that makes sense. But I mean, the worship for the sake of worship, I'm not sure if they quite understand the choirs of demigods and angels and demons that they may loose upon us all in a very real sense, because it's only a matter of time before that stuff crosses over into the real world and swallows it whole, just as much as it swallowed the energy which has been siphoned from the real physical world as we know it, again, unless this is all a simulation and we are now entering into a feedback loop, which means it's just about time to create a correction where we might need to reboot the entire system. Hello, epoch, and I guess that's why we don't remember the total of our history. Maybe it's already been done several times, and there might be some remnants here and there, but you can't really do anything with them because they're just fragments of what used to be. What do you think?
Yeah, the fall of Atlantis, all that. Yeah, that could be what that's hinting at. It's possible. And, well, we're given to believe that humanity is only like, a couple thousand years old. Then we learn it's 30,000 years old. Then we learn it's 300,000 years old. It could be much further back than that. And I think anybody who knows that we don't really know much of anything when we start talking about those subjects is in a good position to try to get some overstanding.
Well, you know what? I could not have put it any better myself. And, of course, Aaron Franz from theageoftransitions.com. I do appreciate you joining me here in this first hour of the Wednesday Ocelli Effect. There we go. Woden's Day, as it were. And we're going to definitely get into somebody who knows quite a bit better in the next hour with Jordan Maxwell. But, Aaron, I thank you so much for joining me this Wednesday and every Wednesday that you've been with me, brother.
Yeah, trippy vibes, man. See you next time.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. The Ocelli Effect will be right back after this.
WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com. The brilliant author of The War State brings you exclusive reports about the big changes upcoming in the markets. WallStreetWindow.com.
Perhaps you're invested deeply.
Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.
Really hot looking?
Every Monday night.
guys to tell you, you freaking idiot. Don't make me come up here again.
We should learn from our relatively recent history, my brother. That's where I'm coming from. I say how proud to these people.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media. Chuck Ocelli.
Second hour of the Ocelli Effect begins now here at Ocelli.com, and also our affiliated networks, including Awake Radio US, RealLibertyMedia.com, WindowsOnTheWorld.net, etc., the micro broadcasters which carry us elsewhere. Do appreciate you for tuning in. Now, in the second hour, and I'm also very grateful to my first hour guest, Aaron Franz, for joining me, but in the second hour we have the one and only Jordan Maxwell. Now, as I said in the intro to the show, the website to go to for Jordan is jordanmaxwellshow.com. That is where you need to go. That is the only website that you go to start to look at Jordan's work, okay? Now, Jordan is also going to tell you about a research website which is contained within that parameter as well during this discussion, I'm sure, and a few other things. But anyway, enough of me running my mouth. How you doing tonight, sir?
Well, I think okay. I guess we'll find out soon enough. So, but thank you for having me on again. I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. Of course, we've had several discussions, and they have been rather interesting. I thought I was going to have you on last week, and a little miscommunication. Yeah.
I think that was my foul up on my end. I think that's what happened, is that I missed you, and but I'm sorry about that, and I'm happy to be back on with you, though.
No, listen, I appreciate it, and things happen, you know. I mean, there's time changes, and then there's different, you know. I mean, Jordan has a lot of things to do. You're still doing your show on American Freedom Radio, too, right?
Well, I still have it on there, but I haven't been able to do the shows myself. I've had friends who come in to fill in for me, and so I really haven't had a chance to be on my own show for some time, because I've had to move. I've been under duress and all kinds of problems, but I'm finally getting, I think, hopefully I'm getting to a place where I can get back to doing what I do. But my life has been filled with so many tragedies and so many different things that are trying to destroy what I'm doing. And so I had to move, and I moved out of the state I was living in and moved out to another place, and that didn't work out, so I moved to another place. But now I think I'm in a very good situation now. I feel very comfortable where I am, and working with a very, very good company, and I'm very happy about that. I've gone to work with Gaia, spelled G-A-I-A, Gaia Television and Gaia Productions. And so I'm in Colorado. I've lived for 58 years in Los Angeles, but I had enough of Los Angeles. And I think most people living in California have had enough of Los Angeles too. So, but I'm out of there forever. And so now I've at least got a nice place to live, and I'm now busy again, and little by little I'm getting back on my feet again. It's not very easy, but I'm doing it.
Well, I got to tell you,
it helps to be on shows like yours, because I appreciate being on again.
Well, look, I appreciate you, and I'm amazed that you survived more than 50 years in Los Angeles, because I couldn't handle it for more than 4 months when I went out there. It's supposed to be the city of angels, Jordan, but I don't see too many angels, and the city is a bit strange, my friend. I mean, do you feel better being away from that kind of strange place?
Yeah, well, remember there is something called fallen angels, and so from the biblical viewpoint, the demons were angels at one time. So yeah, it's the city of the angels, but boy, you better check and find out what kind of angels, because that place is really sick. It's really bad off. I have a lot of very dear and good friends there, but not, that's just a small little group of friends that I have finally come to appreciate are good and loyal friends. But there's a lot of people there that will pat you on the back as they put a knife in your back at the same time. And that's what's happened to me for many years, because I tend to have a character flaw. I trust people all the time. I just trust people when they say they're my friend, they want to do something, help me with something, I accept that. And then I found out, well, I got ripped off again. And so I've had enough of that. And but where I am now, working with Gaia, is they're a very, very fine company. They've already proven themselves to me. They've been very generous and very helpful and very respectful of me and my work. And so I'm delighted to be with them. But boy, I've had enough of Los Angeles, that's for sure.
Well, it is through you that a lot of us have learned to very much consider the words that we use very carefully. And I want to challenge something you just said. You said that it's a character flaw to trust people. I don't think the flaw lies with you. See, if you lived in a world where people were generally trustworthy, it wouldn't be a character flaw to trust many people or all people, because that would be the prevailing condition, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, you're right.
So quite honestly, I would say it's not your flaw. It's the flaw.
But I've said before that the situation is similar to if you were just an ordinary, everyday, commonplace, intelligent person, and you, even if you're a highly professional person, and then one day you decide to take off and go on a vacation and go to another city, another place, and when you go on your vacation, you happen to be going to a city that has a very famous mental institution, a hospital for the mentally impaired, and so you decide to go visit there just for the heck of it. You just want to go visit the hospital. And as you wander through this mental institution, you'll obviously see all these people illy dressed and arguing with each other and slobbering on themselves. But you understand where you are and what the situation is. But those people who and in those mental institutions, the people are always, the inmates are always arguing with each other and yelling at each other, but they all live together, they all know each other, and so it's just what they do. It's just the way they live. They're always arguing and yelling at each other. But with you, when you come through, nobody in the institution knows you. Nobody likes you because you're totally different. You don't even talk like them. You don't dress like them. And virtually speaking, nobody in the institution likes you at all. And why? Because you're different. There's something about you that's different. And so, well, yeah, the thing that's different about me is I have an intelligence, and I'm in a mental institution. Well, that's what it finally boils down to. And in most big cities, in the big cities of this world, you're in a mentally deranged, pot of trouble, and so people they've lost their homes, they've lost their jobs, they've lost contact, they've lost contact with reality, and now the final thing is they're losing their minds. And so I can't handle that kind of an atmosphere anymore. It's crazy there. There's all kinds of infighting, and lies and deception. So I've had enough. I can't deal with it anymore. So I just left, and very happy that the Gaia company invited me to come and work with them, which I'm delighted I did because it was a very good idea. And but I still do radio, and I still love talking with people and doing radio.
Well, right.
So
I'm glad that you're working with a company like Gaia because I'm kind of familiar with them. I know that they're out there doing good work for the most part. And look, I never say that they're always doing good work all the way across the board because I don't know everything that's going on. So I try to speak from what I know. But from what I've been able to observe, I mean they're pretty interesting. And another quick comment here, when you're describing a mental institution, sounds a lot like Newark, New Jersey to me. So I can identify that literally what Jordan just described is a perfect description for Newark, New Jersey, for those of you who have never been there. And, of course, that's where I was born, is that area. But anyway, put it aside. It's interesting that you went to Colorado because Colorado seems to be the center of a lot of interesting activity. There is a lot of positive there, and there is a bit of strangeness there. People have talked about the airport. Did you happen to go through Denver, through Denver when you went to Colorado by chance?
Oh, yeah. I've been to the Denver airport, and, yeah, it's big time strange. It's really strange. But where I am in Boulder, which is, outside of Denver, and so I live like a monk now. I just stay home. I don't go out, and I can work from home. This is a nice part of my employment with Gaia's. I can work from home, which I do. I'm working around the clock. So I don't go out very much. But, yeah, there's the Air Forces here. There's all kinds of strange things in the sky. We have our UFOs here, and so it is a very interesting and strange place coming from Los Angeles, and of course you have to get used to the atmosphere because it's the air is high up as opposed to the low desert where I've lived all my life. So that's a problem too. But it's a very nice place, and I'm very happy to be here. And I'm happy I can still do radio at my age. So.
Well, listen, it is so great to still be able to speak with you because, there are so many that have departed that had some really intelligent and great information to present to us, but you're one of those guys who is still around, and I really appreciate it. Now, a question occurs to me, of course, when it comes to Colorado for another reason here. I don't think I've ever asked you what your view is on cannabis itself. But since you're in Colorado, and hey, listen, if you were partaking, Jordan, it would certainly not be illegal, not be a problem for you in that particular state. Although, stay tuned to what the feds might decide to do via Jeff Sessions.
Well, that's
anyway.
true too. Yeah, you never know what the feds are going to do. And besides, in Colorado, they actually have drive-throughs here, like a bank and like a quick grocery store. You just drive through. And order, instead of a hamburger, order what you want and pull up to the window, pay them, and drive off. Yeah. So, but I have never, ever tried, marijuana or pot, whatever the kids call it, and or any other kind of mind-altering substance of any kind, except for a couple of beers once in a while, but I've never, I just don't take any kind of drugs whatsoever. Period. I don't like taking anything that's not part of my natural system. So I've never tried it, and I don't have any intentions of it. But that is not to say that it's bad or that it's harmful, because I don't know from nothing. I don't know whether it's harmful or good or bad, because I've never tried it. But there's a lot of good research being done on it, and it seems to be a very helpful product if it's used correctly, and then that, I wouldn't turn that down if it could help me, because I do have a lot of things that I have to deal with because of my age, and the aches and pains and the inability to sleep at night and all kinds of things that I have to put up with because of my age. But I've never tried it, and I don't think I ever will. It's just that I don't have anything against it. I just don't think I ever will buy in, try it myself. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would help me if I did, but I haven't, and so I'm not going to.
Well, potentially. I mean, one could even say, forget about the psychoactive elements of it, that maybe some oils could be helpful to you. You are free to partake in that particular aspect of it there in Colorado also. I mean, would it be something that you think you would explore if you felt as though...
Oh, yes, I think so. I've thought about that, too, because I've talked to people who know something about this subject, and they, so like you said, maybe I could take something in an oil, instead of a smoke, and instead of a cigarette type thing, and that may be something I really should do, because I do have things that I would like to get help on, and maybe that would help me a lot. And so I've kind of in the back of my mind been looking at the possibility of going to the doctor first and finding out exactly what is wrong with me, or what can I do to help myself, and if that could be of any value to me. And I would take it if I thought it was valuable to me. And but for the normal reasons people talk about marijuana, those things don't interest me at all. But you're right. Maybe oils would help me, because I could use some help at 77 years old. But I don't have anything against it, and I don't have anything for it. I just don't know that much about it, and I'm not interested.
Well, no, but that's the thing, though, is you're not willing to pass judgment on it, because it's just simply not, an area that you've taken the time to understand. And so let's turn away from that. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you're a lot happier. You sound, by the way, a lot more relaxed than you used to. By the way.
Oh yeah. Because I've been under profound darkness for a long time, for many years. Nobody seems to. There's no possible way for you to know the way I live, unless you are a very close friend that lives very close to me. You would not know how I live. A lot of people have ideas about what they think Jordan Maxwell is, and who he is, and how he lives, etc. But you have really no idea about how dark a world I have had to live in. And it's very dark. And I live under a constant 24 hours a day, a constant threats and antagonizing people, and people who are threatening me, calling me names, stealing from me, lying to me, etc. And I'm at 77 years old, like I said, I just tend to trust people, and then I have to pay for it. And so I have paid a terrible price for doing what I do, and being who I am and doing what I do. But I've put myself out on the line now, and I've paid a dear price for it. But my philosophical feeling about myself and what I do is that it's who I am. It's part of my destiny to be who I am and do what I do. I don't know why I do it. I don't know how I got into it. It's just that over the years I've always been interested in everything which is hidden. I've always been interested in secrets and secret things that go on all around you that people don't know. And it didn't take me long to figure out that the whole world I live in is a secret. And there's dark stuff going on, lies and deception and business and religion and government. and the whole of human society, the whole underbelly of Western civilization, is nothing but secret societies and criminality and strange, off-the-wall kind of reasonings, and it's just a very, very dark world that we live in, and especially if you're like me and delve into it on the dark side, because you can fall into a rabbit hole with this, because there's so much you don't know, so much that you have no idea how far down the world of mankind really is. So I just do the best I can with trying to educate people to the world we live in.
Right. I know that you do, and your efforts are, a matter of record. I mean, you can find thousands and thousands of hours of your time being spent trying to explain to people exactly how deep and dark these things could potentially go. In today's reality, you can find all sorts of recordings. Many people have spoken to you over the years. I myself have spent a few hours with you, but it is nothing compared. It's a drop in the bucket, not even a bucket, but a drop in the pond of what you've created here in terms of information that's out there. I mean, not just the interviews, but the DVDs, the lectures, the presentations. It's an amazing body of work. Something I want to ask you, though, is that we've had sort of an acceleration of the access to knowledge and the access that people could have to the knowledge which you have worked tirelessly to bring to people. My question is, do you feel as though everything has been accelerated, or has the darker side of things gained a greater advantage, or is it really the advantage of those of us who wish to work against the darkness at this time, considering the way the technology is moving and the directions it's going?
Yeah, and I understand the question, and it's a subjective question. It's just based on my ideas and my feelings, my opinion, so to speak. But I hate having to answer this in public, because I don't want to cause hard feelings. But you asked me a question, and I'm old enough to appreciate being honest with people. My feeling about the world I live in is I'm trying to, in my small way, for the last 55 or 56 years of going around lecturing and talking to people, and I'm trying to do what I can to raise the IQ and the level of interest in the world that we really actually live in, and how it actually in fact works, etc. But my feeling is that I am trying to empty the Pacific with a cup, because I'm just one voice, and it is such an enormous problem. It's so overwhelmingly enormous how much the people of this world do not know. And this is why we are all in trouble, both with governments and religion and military and finances and banks and personal lives. The whole world is in trouble, and they don't know where to turn. And I'm saying there's nothing we can do. We humans cannot do anything to change the situation. We just live with it and go on and try and live your life in spite of all of the terrible things going on. But the reason why we can't change anything, because we have no power. This is the problem. People who are very wealthy and have a lot of political clout and power can do things that we can't do, normal people can't do. And so we can't change anything because we don't have the power. And the reason why is because knowledge is power. And unless and until you understand how a thing works, you can't change it or help it. And so people have no idea in the world how banks actually, in fact, really work. We have no idea in the world why governments do what they do and work the way they work. And most people don't even think about, well, how come the entire earth, the entire world that we live in operates? And there's all kinds of problems, but it all operates. Russia still does what Russia does, and China does what China does, and the U.S. is doing what it's doing, and everybody lives on the planet, and the world continues to work. But you don't know how to understand how the world is designed, how it actually works. So that's what I've been trying to do, is to tell people, you don't understand the words. You don't know where the ideas have come from. And you have so many different religions, but they've all come from the same place, but you don't know that. And so once you begin to see how the world is really put together, how courts actually work, not how you thought they work, and how commerce, international commerce between nations, how it actually in fact works, I will guarantee you, has nothing whatsoever to do with anything that you might think is going on when you talk about banks and government and religions and big institutions. You have no idea in the world how these things really work. But the people at the top of the world who run our planet, they know what they're doing. And like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. But once you begin to look at the big club and see how the world system is really operating, how it's put together, then it begins to, for the first time, make sense about why things happen the way they do. I know, and I've watched this over the many years, over 50 years I've been talking about how the world really works, and we don't know. And if you don't know, you can't help it. You can't do anything to change it. And I think probably the one facet of this worldwide problem of ignorance that we have, I think those two of the most important parts is religion and government. And then there's a third leg to the chair, which is commerce. And of the three, they're all three very, very difficult to understand. But once you do, begin to see how commerce actually works and see where religions actually come from and what they were saying and what the words actually mean, then you begin to wake up to a whole world you've never known before. And that's what I try and do, and get people to wake up, because your mind, like I've said before, your mind is like a parachute. It don't work if it's not open. Mm-hmm. And so you need to appreciate that the world is not what you think it is. Nothing works the way you think it does. Well, and the words should tell you something if you think about it. I mean, people go to court, and everybody's worried about, they have to go to court. Why do you go to court? You play basketball on a court. You play tennis on a court. Does that tell you something? And how do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. You need to look at the words and where these words come from and how they guide our thinking. And we just take it all for granted and never even realize, if you go to a bank, why do you have money in a bank? Where does the word bank come from? Well, we have something called a river bank. Banks on each side of a river. What does a river bank do? Well, it directs the flow of the currency, because your money is a cash flow. It's a liquid asset. It's water. So we say, money goes through your hands like water. No, actually, in point of fact, money is considered liquid asset. It's considered water internationally. But if you don't know that, then, once you start questioning and find out, where did the word police come from? Why do we have police? If you watch all the old cowboy movies, the old Wild Western days, they never had, police in any of the cowboy movies. Why didn't they have police? Because there was no necessity for police. Because you need to know where that word police comes from. And so if you go into a church, you need to know what the word church comes from and what it actually means. So I'm just saying that words and terms are very, very strange stuff when you start breaking down words and where they've come from. And start looking for the first times at the world you live in.
Well, where does the word police come from? Because, to me, now this may sound very juvenile to you, Jordan, because you've been at this a very long time, but to me, I measure the entire world in this way. All things seem to contain some level of water, are part of the currency, which means, guess what? You and me are all also commodities as far as these people are concerned that are actually running the banks who direct the currency.
Well, if you're looking for a job, you don't go to employment agency. You're a human resource.
Right.
So you have to go to a human resource. Well, resource is like iron and oil and wood and all the other resources, including you. You're just a human resource, and you're 76 to 78% water. So you're a maritime admiralty water product, and I mean, you get into the words and start thinking about the words you use and understand how it applies to you, because before you were born, your mother and father, all people for hundreds and hundreds of years, all human beings are considered by the laws of this world, all humans are considered to be companies, they're corporations. So you are a corporation, just like General Motors and General Electric and Ford. They're a corporation. Well, so are you. Your body, your very flesh and blood body as a security on the New York Stock Exchange. Why? Because you are a security. And so your body's on the security of the stock exchange, and you're worth millions of dollars. But you don't know that because nobody's ever told you. But you got your body is worth like about $4 to $8 million on the New York Stock Exchange, and you can find that out by going and checking with the stock exchange and giving them your Social Security number on the back of your Social Security card, and they will tell you that you are a security on the New York Stock Exchange and that you are being traded all over the world. I mean, it's a strange world we live in, and people have no idea how this works, and so. We could talk about commerce. That's one hell of a subject because there's so much to it.
It certainly is. But here's two things. One, I have a listener explaining in the chat room that, talking about where the word church comes from, I'm satisfied to believe that it does come from the very same word for circus, and it does seem to link to Circe. And you can look that stuff up, and there you go. But police. That's something that you brought up.
Let me explain to you where police comes from.
Please.
See, when the USA was founded in 1776, or right around that time when America, the Republic was being founded, 1776, back in George Washington's day and all that kind of thing, we were being founded as a republic. And so as a republic, every individual, every man and woman and child in this republic at its founding were considered by law and the international law. They stipulated that every man, woman, and child in this republic is a sovereign. And as a sovereign, you were totally free because a sovereign is a king or a queen. So therefore, you were considered to have the same position of power in this country as the King of England, King of France. And that's why the Europeans hated us. That's why the Europeans, we warred with England, because the sovereigns, the kings there in England, thought to themselves, well, if those people in America are sovereigns, that means they have the same power I do. And they are kings and queens. And America said, yeah, that's exactly right. So don't come messing with me because I'll defend my kingship. And so when America was founded, it was founded as a republic. But after the Civil War, the Civil War comes. Well, after the Civil War was over, we were no longer officially known as the United States of America. Because after the Civil War, we were no longer united. One half of this country was killing the other half. So we were no longer officially known as the United States of America because we're not united. We just went through a horrible war and we're not happy about it. And there's still a lot of bad feelings even today between the North and the South, and et cetera, et cetera. So therefore, the United States of America no longer existed after the Civil War. But what are you going to do with all the millions of people? Because they're here and they want to work and they want to eat and they want to stay alive. And it doesn't matter if you're a republic or what you are, but you got to deal with the people because they are here. And so what are you going to do about that? Well, if there is no longer a United States of America, then the only smart thing to do, the politicians came up with an idea in 1870s. In 1871, they came up with an idea. Why don't we, since we're no longer a republic, we're no longer a free country and all of that, and the people are no longer sovereigns, but why don't we make it the whole land that used to be the United States of America, make it into a corporation like Exxon or any of the big, like Ford Motor Company. Make it into a company, a corporation. And so they changed the United States of America into a corporation. Well, now everyone in the United States or in that land, in our land in North America, is now actually an employee of a corporation. So we're no longer a United States of America. We don't no longer have, we're not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave. You better get permission to do everything. You better get a permit and a license, and you better ask permission. And if you get out of line, you go to jail. They can take your children from you. You can be put in prison. So we're no longer a land of the free and the home of the brave. We're just a corporation like General Electric and any other big company like Ford. Now, if you are an employee of a large corporation, which we are, then you must have a corporate card that you wear to identify you when you're at work. And so therefore, the corporation called United States is no longer a great republic of free men and women on the world scene. No, we're just a company, and you work for the company. So therefore, the corporation can tell you what time you have to be to work, what time you can take lunch, what time you go home, and they can oversee what you do all day long because you are simply an employee of a corporation. There is no more freedom and liberty and justice and all of that. That's gone back in 1871 by law. It's no longer there. But what does the corporations have corporations, I don't care how big Ford gets, the policies that Ford or any big corporation has is not the law of the land. It's not the God's written law chiseled in stone. Corporations can't do that. They can't empower themselves to write the law for the whole country. Corporations can only have policies. So today we don't have laws as such. We have a policy. As a matter of fact, any politician will tell you that the United States operates under something called public policy. And so we have policy makers, and they're the lawmakers. No, they're policy makers. They're not law makers because the corporations cannot enforce law. When you talk about law, that's serious. No, the United States no longer can make laws because we're not a country anymore. We're a corporation. And so the only thing that the corporation can do is just have its own policy. Well, of course, Sears has a policy, the way they do business, but General Electric has a different policy, the way they do business. So every corporation has their own policy. So we have policymakers, and therefore the policies are backed up by a police. It's the same word, spelled the same way. Police back up the policy. And therefore the policy is dreamt up by the politicians who back it up with the police. It's all the same word, Police. Policy, police, politicians, it's all the same word for a company, a corporation. So it's not law, it's just a policy. And incidentally, you yourself and your body, your physical body is a security on the New York Stock Exchange. That's the policy. And you are a corporation. People don't realize that their whole body, your flesh and blood body of everyone hearing me, you are a corporation. And I'll give you an example. If I see you out, say, with a woman one night, and I see you the next day, and I say to you, you know that woman you were with last night? Yeah, I would tell you, she's bad company. And you say, mind your own business. Company? Business? Yeah, and then I find out you're going to get married, and she's going to be your partner. So what are you talking about here? Partner? Company? Business? Yeah, it's commerce. This is why if you're going to get married, you've got to have a license because it's a business license. She's a corporation, and you're a corporation. So Ford wants to go in business with General Electric. Now that's fine if you get a permit. You don't just go out and do anything you want to in this world of business. You better check with the government. You better have your lawyers draw up the papers. And so if you're going to get married, that's fine, but you better have a license because that's business. If you don't think it's business, wait till you find out your marriage doesn't work. You're not going to God. You're going to court.
Well, not
you better
only
bring
that.
everything. You better bring your house and your car and everything else because the bottom line is it's just business. And your business is now defunct. It didn't work out. So bring your money and your car. So you are a corporation.
Well, I've been divorced, and I'll tell you, yes,
I have too.
You must bring all your assets, or at least a certification of your assets with you to show what they are, to figure out how they're divided. But you know, some people might say, well, what is it that a corporation or this merger of two corporations produce? Get ready for this. Take a look at the legal documents if you've ever been divorced. The children are products of the marriage. They are products. And they're
the man in the marriage. The man in the marriage. He's a company, and thank God he's a business, and she's a business and a company. But thank God it's none of my business. I got my own company and my own business. But when you begin to see how the laws are put together secretly in secret words and terms that we don't know that are being applied to us. For instance, when the man gets married, he is going to M-A-N. He's going to manufacture a product, and then his partner is going to be in labor, creating the product. And so she's in labor, and he has manufactured, and so now the product is you. Well, you came down your mother's birth canal, a canal. You came down the birth canal, and when you were born, your mother's water broke. And so your mother's water broke, you came out, and now you are a business. Thank God you're not in my business, but you're a business. And so words like that, like manufacturing, she's in labor, and she's producing a product. And then all of this has to do with maritime admiralty law, or the law of banks, and the law of government, and how governments are set up based on your body. This is why if you are if you are a member of the corporation, but if somebody comes across our border, say from Mexico or any of our borders, they come illegally into our company. Yeah, well, that's what they're doing. They're coming into our company. Well, we didn't invite them into our company. Well, it doesn't matter. They're here. And so if you come into this corporation, you think you're coming into the United States of America. No, you're coming into a corporation, a company. And this is why we're not interested in helping the poor or people of the world. You're coming into a corporation, a company. And so if you come into this country without paperwork, then the government of this corporation can put a lien on you. It's called a mechanic's lien. And a mechanic's lien is simply if I paid your house and you don't pay me, I can put a lien on your house. And you have to pay me before you can do anything with the house. So I'm putting a mechanic's lien on you because you owe me money. Well, if you come into this country and you're working, but you're not officially a member of the corporation, you will become known as an alien. You're an alien. No, they are putting a lien on you. Therefore, you are an alien. So it all goes back to understanding the words that we use each day and why we use the terms and words and symbols that we do and what they really mean. Well, it's an extraordinary story of betrayal because the American people do not know how this world works.
Well, in
if
short,
you don't understand, then you're just going to pay the price. You're going to have nothing but trouble all your life.
That's true. And in short, here's the thing. Some people might say, well, that sounds like if you're working for a corporation, you must be employed by them. I don't remember doing an interview or an entrance exam to get on the payroll here. How did that actually happen?
You know, when you did that, when you were born, your mother signed a bank statement. It's called a birth certificate. But if you go back and look at an actual birth certificate, it's on the paper. You'll see on the bottom of the birth certificate in small letters on the left-hand side, it will tell you that this birth certificate is the property of the Department of Commerce. It will tell you that. It says it's the property of the Department of Commerce, and in a way down in the corner, on one corner or the other of the birth certificate, you will see it says banking paper. It's a security paper. It's got all that fancy design around it, like a security on the New York Stock Exchange. Why? Because you are a security for the body social called the United States Corporation. And if you are a security for the body social, therefore when you retire, when you're through working and you go home or you retire, you get Social Security. No, you don't get Social Security. You are the security for the corporation's social body. So you get Social Security. But why? Because you are a security. As long as you're alive and working, then you are making money, and the security and the corporation is making money off of you, and you're paying taxes, and they're making that much more off of you. So that's why today in the law we have to have seat belts in cars. You have to have insurance and seat belts. Why? Because the corporation is tired of taking care of you. It don't make money when it has to put you in a hospital and take care of you if you get in a wreck. And so we don't want you getting in a wreck, not because we love you. It's because you are a corporation. You are an employee of a company. And if you get hurt and you go to the hospital, the corporation's going to have to take care of you. They're going to have to help pay the bills and pay your insurance. And why should we do that? Just put a safety belt on and drive safe. This way we don't have to put money out on you. You just keep going to work and sending us money instead of us putting money out on you. So they're not trying to save your life or save you because they love you. No, it's business. That's why you have insurance companies. Insurance companies are the foundation for what we call banks. Banks operate on insurance companies. The insurance company is the foundation for our banks in America, and so you need to understand what's going on behind the curtain with insurance companies and international banking. And if you sign your Social Security card, look on the back of your Social Security card, and you will see a bunch of numbers, a letter, and then a bunch of numbers on the back of your Social Security card. Take that back as a Social Security card and put it up against a $1 bill. Take the bill out of your wallet, and you will see a series of numbers, a letter and numbers on the dollar bill. Put your Social Security card numbers up next to the serial numbers on the dollar bill, and you'll see that they match. And therefore, why are they matching? It's because your body is a security for the dollar bill that's in your wallet. Why? Because your body is being bought and sold on the international world market. People, Americans don't know that. There are countries that own your body. You don't think so? Wait till they decide to go bankrupt and they come knocking on your door and arrest you. Why? Because they own you. They own your children. They own your body. They own your flesh and blood. You need to wake up and find out how this world really works, not how you thought it worked.
Right, and
there's a whole world out there people don't know about.
And that is the bottom line. Of course, people can learn a whole lot more. How is the research website doing? Because we're almost out of time here, and I want to talk to people about that.
If you go on my website, I only have I only have one website. There are others out there with my name on it, but they don't have anything to do with me. They just use my name. But my website is Jordan Maxwell Show. Jordan like the river. And Maxwell Show, JordanMaxwellShow.com. But add the word show, S-H-O-W, because that's my website. So when you go on Jordan Maxwell Show, that's my website, you will see ads. You'll see an ad for a little banner saying Jordan Maxwell Research Society. All it is just a research website that I've added to my original website. And it's a research website in which I'm putting all of my documents, audios, videos, documents, research papers, books, all kinds of research material. There's so many different facets to it. And so I've got it all divided into categories. So if you want research documents in religion or documents in commerce, if you want to find the best information on etymology and what words mean, and if you go into court, you better find out what you're doing when you go to court and what it means. So it's a massive website. It's a research website. And so if you want to join, you go to Jordan Maxwell Show, and you will see Jordan Maxwell Research website. Join it. And then I'm also, you'll see that I'm also now associated with Gaia, and they have like over 8,000 documentaries, beautiful, incredibly beautiful documentaries on all kinds of arcane subjects, from government to finance to religions to the whole world that we live in, the spiritual world. And it's an incredible website, Gaia, GAIA.com. So
absolutely, and Jordan,
just go on my website and you'll see it all and join it. Join with me. I'm putting all of my work into the research website.
Right. Everything eventually seeming to end there. And, of course, you can see a lot of the stuff that Jordan has put together over more than half a century of trying to educate, trying to enlighten people. And I really have been very appreciative that you spent this hour with us, Jordan. It's a real privilege to talk to somebody who is on, well, in my estimation, the right side of the issue here, and somebody who is trying to, just merely get people to think for themselves and to examine what is really happening, as opposed to
your mind, like I said, your mind's like a parachute, It don't work if it's not open.
And that's the way that is. The Ocelli Effect is done for now. Of course, it was a great privilege to have on Jordan Maxwell in the second hour. Aaron Franz, who actually, I think, substituted for Jordan on one of his radio shows not long ago in the first. But again, Jordan, a real privilege to have you on. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, and we can do it again.
Absolutely. We will do it here again on the Ocelli Effect. And guys, no matter who you are, where you are, I hope you're doing well. And I am merely Ocelli. All of you are the Effect. Have a good night.